What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at AVAIYA is what the world needs.
Hello, AVAIYA family. I'm Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are teachers, mentors, and the co-owners of AVAIYA University. AVAIYA is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teacher, Guy Finley, is back with us today to talk about how to use any negative reaction to rise above anger and fear. Guy is the best-selling author of more than 45 books and audio albums on self-realization. He is the founder and director of Life of Learning Foundation, a nonprofit center for spiritual discovery located in Oregon. Guy is also a faculty member at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck, New York, and at 1440 Multiversity. Welcome back to AVAIYA, Guy.
Thank you. I'm glad to see you. Nice to hear your voice again.
Yeah, always good to see you. And I am very intrigued by your topic today. And I know this is going to be a great conversation. So, all right. So when people have experienced a betrayal or a deception, there's obviously pain involved for a lot of people. So how can people not be in pain after having experienced the loss of trust in a relationship?
You know well from our relationship that I'm not interested, in quotes, in being like a fast food drive-through, how to deliver myself from this terrible dark moment in my life. Because at some point, God willing, we start to realize that these dark moments, they're not just because someone lied to me or betrayed me. They're not just because the government did or didn't do this, and all the things that cause this upheaval in us. That I believe, and my interest in talking with you today, is we always want to know, Andy, what to do. That's always for what do I do? Instead of taking place in what I would call the essential question that each and every one of these moments asks us, which is, who are you and what are you going to serve in this moment of upheaval? That's the essential question. And we really have never answered it because when someone betrays us, we want to know what to do. How do I treat them so that I feel okay about myself? How do I feel okay about myself when I'm in so much pain? And how am I going to get through this so that I either save this relationship or I'll be well enough to go into another one? And if we're honest with ourselves, I think it's just absolutely evident none of those answers change the fact that we will again be in another relationship where we're going to feel like the shoe falls off and that we fall into a hole. So the task for me and for those of us who really want to know the essential question, how do I use this moment where I'm hurt? I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, I don't know about you. I've had my heart stomped on quite a few times, But at some point, I realized maybe I'm being stomped on because I'm standing in the middle of a stampede that I don't know I'm standing in the middle of. A stampede of what? All of these negative reactions, these thoughts and feelings that come sweeping down the plane, and I'm standing there trying to figure out which one of these horses am I going to get on in order to escape the fact that I'm about to be run over by what? My own reactions. We're not going to change people, Andy, by resisting them or insisting that they become other than they are. I don't know how long that takes, but that's essentially what's going on when we feel betrayed. We want to know, how do we make this person feel sorry for what they did? How do I get them to own up to what they did? And how do I do that without, in case I really don't want to lose this person, how do I do that without alienating them with my negativity? So when we look at all of this, I believe it begs a completely different question, which I'm getting to the point of. What am I going to serve in this moment of my suffering? Am I going to serve the part of me that insists that my pain is because of you? Or am I going to serve the part of me that can wake up and be aware of the fact that if I didn't have some form of unconscious identification, dependency, attachment to you, I couldn't possibly be suffering this way. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't suffer. It just means that my suffering becomes useful or it remains not useful. Mm-hmm. Unconscious suffering always involves blame, shame, and judgment. Conscious suffering always reveals the part of us that we don't know is there, that gets caught up in this knee-jerk reaction because somehow I feel I've been made less by what you did. Mm-hmm. You cannot be made less by what any human being on this planet does. It's impossible. And that's the task in that moment, as far as I'm concerned. What is this consciousness? How do I enter into a different relationship with it? And that'll change my relationship with every other human being.
Mm-hmm. And okay, so you mentioned, right, conscious suffering and unconscious suffering. So if people watching right now recognize, okay, clearly I'm in unconscious suffering and they want to get into conscious suffering, right? I guess be more productive, so to speak, with our suffering. How does one even like shift into that space? Like how does that work?
We need to gradually, which is, again, for me, why am I on this planet so that Andy likes me? Is that the purpose of my existence? I've been married for 40 years. I love my wife. She's the greatest thing in the world. I don't know what I would have done without having her as an influence in my life, because she has helped me see the brute, the brooder. She has helped me see all of these aspects of my consciousness that without her as a mirror, I would have never known were there, let alone that they need to be brought into the light of an awareness so that I start to recognize this is not who in my heart of hearts I want to be. So that begs the fact that relationships are intended to be mirrors. So we ask, well, what is it that we should be doing? We need to understand something that's taking place in that moment. A quick story. Here's a man, and gradually he finds himself being followed by a tormenting, constantly morphing spirit of some kind. Starts like a shadow and then gradually takes on the shape of whatever the man starts to fear in that moment, or whatever he's angry about. So that whatever this is, it shows up. And haven't you ever marveled how there's parts of us that know exactly what to say to exert the maximum punishment on us? I mean, when are we going to wake up and realize there's something that lives in my consciousness that is antithetical to my happiness, but that apparently makes itself happy by bringing me into this light of judgment from which there's no escape? Right. So this is what's falling around. One day, because the shadowy creature is always pointing out this problem, that weakness, this person, one day the man waking up turns to the creature and says, when the creature starts to say, tell him, show him things about himself, instead of running or hiding or blaming, he says, thank you, I didn't know that about myself. That simple. Thank you, I didn't know that about myself. Somebody betrays me. My wife says something that's critical. Someone cuts me off in a conversation or on the freeway. All of these are everyday relationships. What's the last thing that ever comes to me in that moment when I'm full of resistance and ready to fight and blame the person for my pain? What's the last thing that comes to me?
Peace.
What is this showing me about myself? Not what that identity proves about you by how much pain and negativity I have toward you, but what is this teaching me about myself? Then every human being on the planet becomes a mirror in which you can look and see within yourself what you need to begin to consciously suffer versus what you need to unconsciously serve and continue to suffer for that unconscious service.
I feel like that was like a riddle at the end then. That's good.
Yeah. Well, in a way it is, because the mind goes, well, what? When I serve a reaction, a negative reaction. What am I serving other than something I'm strongly identified with that says, no, this moment can't be like that. But the moment is like that. I can't change what she said, what they did. I can't change that he lied to me. It's impossible. So I can either realize there's something in me that wants to serve the reaction, the identity that says, no, this isn't right, it shouldn't be like that, or I can serve my wish to wake up to that part of my consciousness that insists everybody does their part exactly the way I've written it in every moment of my life. Because if you don't, I got a problem with you. Does that solve the riddle?
Yeah, perfect. Got it. It's all taken care of.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when, in this conversation, I can anticipate some people saying certain things like, well, why do I always get betrayed? Or why does it seem like the most honest, loving people in life are being lied to, betrayed, deceived, right? Like, could you speak to that? Because I think that's something that comes up a lot for people. And I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Everybody listening, because they're connected to you, so I assume that they are aspirants of some order. What's the saying, Andy? When the student is ready, what happens?
The teacher appears.
Well, I love when the teacher comes and look at me, look what I did, I handled that with great aplomb, I don't want the moment when the teacher comes and it says, Guy, take a look at this anger that's inside of you. Take a look at this idea that no one can talk to you unless you have authorized the tone that they use. Take a look at all these qualities and characteristics that go with you before you, not to make the crooked make it moment, not to make the crooked road straight like Christ said, but rather to make sure that everything's crooked, because unless you line up with what I believe you should do and say, we got a problem. Mm-hmm. So do I want to use every moment of my life to have revealed within me what is concealed, so that in the revelation of what's concealed, that broken consciousness, that divided nature can begin to be integrated? That's the question. Do I want to be integrated, or do I want to continue to separate myself from everything that produces suffering I only know how to blame on other people? Always the essential question, Andy.